Okay, so hopefully you've got your arm on nice and tight, all pinned into position. Once you've done that, we're now onto the front facing, which is quite tricky again. What we do is cutting from below up towards the edge of the arm, 1/4 inch away, and we do this all the way around the arm. Once you've done that, you can fold that back all the way around the arm. Just make sure not to cut too near. So I'm 1/4 inch away, like so, all the way around. I'm just going to lose a little bit of the excess. So we're nicely laid on there. We've kind of got the arm laid correctly. We now need a piece pinned on the front of the arm. Allow 1 inch at the top, keeping tight into the arm, 1 inch below. And now we need to pin into position. Again, keeping the weave running level. We need plenty of pins on this arm to keep the shape. We need to keep the fabric into this shape. Once you've done that, you can trim off a little bit of the excess. And now we need to pin around the arm, keeping this, taking as much fabric as we can take to keep this sat nice and tight into this area. So starting from the middle. Okay then, so once you've got that pinned in and you've taken your seams, doubled, even triple check, you're happy with all the seams, you've got this nice and smooth, pinned in nice and tight, you've allowed the correct size seams all the way around. Check the shape, that you're happy with the shape from the front and the back. So check every single seam, very important this is correct. As you can see, we've pinned all the way around the top. I've put the marker pen here where the edge of the arm is. That's where we'll be joining to the outside arm. So I've put plus seam on this area. I'll zoom in so you can see this. But basically you just need to check, double check that this is all smooth. I'll zoom in and I'll show it from a few different angles so you can see exactly what I've done. Okay, onto the outside arm. We need a piece. Allow 1 inch or 2 at the top, 1 inch or 2 at the bottom. And then wide enough, making sure to pin on, again, looking at the weave running level, pins at the back, like so, nice and tight into this area. I'm just drawing the line. I'm going to cut into the middle, cut downwards. That releases the fabric so we can keep tight down here. Just a little bit of a shape down here, back up to here. Same thing, there's a bit of shape, so cutting upwards, releases the fabric, like so. Going to pop a pin in there to keep it tight. Now underneath here, tight into the arm, all the way along. A notch there, a double notch, a single notch, so we know where to sew to match up. A notch on the front, another notch down here. I've drawn on here, edge of the frame. I need to add my seam back, plus seam on the table, plus seam. Likewise on the top of the arm here, we'll be adding the seam down here, plus seam. Same on the bottom of the wing, plus seam. And then also, I want to sew Velcro under the arm, so Velcro underneath the arm. Now, I was going to put Velcro down here, but I don't think we will need it because we're going to have Velcro on the top and then Velcro tight underneath, and we've got the dart on the front, so I don't think we need Velcro. No, I don't think we'll need Velcro in here. I now need a notch on the front there to the front facing on the arm. I'll show this from the other side so you can see. Okay, so finally, edge of the frame where we're going to pipe around the bottom. Just another marker to pipe or welt, pipe welt around the bottom. And then I'm just going to put a marker where I want my flaps to sit. So I want a flap from there to the front there. And I'll measure the flap, so 17 1/4. I'll just put flap. We know to put Velcro on the bottom, 17 1/4 from here. So I'll just put flap to here. And we want that 1.5 inches deep. So that's the outside arm complete. We'll be adding the seams down here, plus seam. Okay, just to quickly go over the outside of the arm, we've got the notches. We're going to be adding the seams all around the arm, around the bottom. On the front of the arm here, we've got the dart underneath here to keep this kind of hooked underneath. On the front here, we're going to be adding the seams, and on the facing, adding the seams down here. We'll be adding the flap from the arrow this way to this arrow. This flap will go here, pulling the cover tight underneath. Velcro on the top along here will give us a nice tight fit. I think that's about it. Onto the outside back. Okay, so onto the outside back. I've left the piece a few inches longer, a couple of inches at the top. As long as we're pinned straight past the halfway again, anywhere past the halfway, nice and straight with the weave running level, we can now pin up the outside back, making sure we get a nice tight fit on the outside arm, the outside wing, pulling the excess fabric, trim off, leaving the seam allowance, a notch down here, a notch on the outside wing, and another notch at the top. Now we're just pinning along the top, making sure to pull the inside back nice and tight, taking up any excess fabric. Again, we can trim off a notch on this side of the dart, a notch at the bottom of the dip, and a notch at the top of the inside wing. Double check all the seams that you're happy, and then along the bottom, we're just marking the edge of the frame again, where the piping's going to run, or welting again if you're in the US. I'll put a marker in for inside the leg there, so we'll be measuring from there to the opposite side, 21.5. I'll just put flap so we know that that's the marker. Pipe, welt all the way around the bottom. All we need now is a halfway marker, and that's my top half there. So that's pattern complete.